let's kind of start big picture here. Obviously, 2020 has been a year like we've never seen from the global pandemic. The sell-off in March, the historic fiscal and monetary responses that we saw, the election, now a runoff in the state of Georgia, markets hitting all-time highs or new highs, and of course the vaccine news, the light at the end of the tunnel. So kind of framing up all of that, I know it's a lot to digest. What are your views of the market and also the broader economy?
Well, I think the stock market's on a combination of fiscal and monetary pulse that we've never seen before in history. Nothing like this. And of course, that's why you've got more companies with a PE over 100 than at any point, any other time in history. I think we're something like 50% more than we had in the top of the 2000 NASDAQ bubble. But there's, again, if you just compare and contrast, in 2000, we had real rates of about 250 basis points. We had nominal rates near 6%, and yet you still were able to achieve these lofty valuations for a variety of companies. Fast forward to where we are now, you've got real rates that are negative 200 basis points, nominal rates 0. And again, you can see why you've got Tesla at 900 times earnings, because of the fact there's really no real good alternative for your cash. And so what we're seeing is what you see normally in many post-election years, a redeployment of cash back into risky assets after the fears that are associated with presidential elections and change in parties and the uncertainty, and then knowing after they go away, irrespective a lot of times of even what the fundamentals are, risk capital comes back in the markets, and that's kind of what we're seeing now. And I assume that trend is going to continue.
Well, I'm hearing you on that and the surge that we've seen in risk assets. Certainly, I know you more as a macro trader, not necessarily an investor. You look at things from a trader's perspective. Are there any events on your radar, anything that could really change things or drive things in 2021?
Well, there's some things that I think are immutable, and then there's some things that are going to be very binary. It's funny, I'm actually speaking from Georgia right now. So I know this in Georgia. I think anyone that thinks that this election is forecastable is just wrong. So I think the Senate is a 50-50 toss-up. You've got 5 million voters, I believe, in Georgia that voted. That number is going to probably drop to 3 million. Or it should drop significantly from the general election. That's what runoffs typically do. It's going to be about who mobilizes their base. And you got this brand new phenomena of mail-in voting, which clearly favors the Democratic Party. It takes, 10 minutes to go ahead and fill out a ballot and mail it in, whereas most Republicans go to the polls, and what's that, 2 hours? So even though I think you would look at the numbers, you would think the Republicans have an advantage in this, there's just a lot of unknown events around this runoff. And so I think it's a coin toss. And yes, the outcome of that will have a lot of binary consequences, because we're back to it's going to be all or nothing. You're either going to have 2 blue senators, you're going to have 2 red senators, and they'll have significant consequences for some assets. So yes, that part I think is indeterminate. But then I think there are other things that aren't indeterminate. And that's, we're going to have a vaccine. The vaccine's going to bring us back. We're going to have an incredible growth rebound. I have 4 kids in their 20s, and it's like a horse at the beginning of a race. They're so ready to get to see their friends, to get to restaurants, to vacate. They're just ready to get out and go crazy, like I think everyone else in the world. And yeah, I assume you're going to have a second quarter explosion, certainly at the retail level, at every level, and you're going to have this just massive boom. And the consequences of that, I think, are pretty clear for fixed income. Fixed income will probably go down during that. Commodities will probably go up. And I think those are the two things that seem to me to be not influenced by what happens here in Georgia in January. Maybe there'll be an accelerant if you had a blue wave as opposed to a red wave. But I think we pretty much charted the course to some type of absolute supersonic boom come second, third, Q2 and Q3 next year.
Irrespective of how Georgia goes, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, if the Democrats won, they're going to try another infrastructure bill. So you'd probably accelerate that growth path a bit. If they don't win, I think the vaccine by itself will again unleash so much pent-up demand that you're going to really see a lot of growth in the second, third quarters, and you're going to see commodity prices probably rally, see inflation come back. There'll be a whole suite of things that I think are pretty much baked in the cake